5 real experiments that were too evil for science. Science gave us vaccines, space travel, and electroshock torture on orphans. Nice balance, right? These 5 experiments were so twisted, even science said, yeah, no thanks, let's dive in. Number 1. The Monster Study, 1939, when scientists played mean girls with orphans. You know what screams ethical research? Gaslighting orphans into having speech disorders they never had. Welcome to the Monster Study, where scientists basically bullied children for science and called it a speech experiment. In 1939, a group of researchers at the University of Iowa decided to test whether stuttering was caused by psychological trauma. Naturally, instead of studying people who actually stuttered, they thought, what if we just create some stutterers instead? Genius stuff. So, they took 22 orphans, again, because orphans make such convenient test subjects, and split them into 2 groups. One group got praise and support, the other got torn down like they were on a reality TV roast. You sound terrible, you're stuttering, what's wrong with you? Spoiler, they weren't stuttering before, but a few weeks of that treatment and suddenly they were. Some of these kids develop permanent speech issues, anxiety, crippling self-doubt, because when a trusted adult tells you that your voice is broken and you're a child with 0 support system, your brain kind of folds in on itself. And here's the kicker. The researchers later tried to bury the study like a bad secret. It didn't come to light until decades later. That's right, they traumatized children and tried to sweep it under the rug. Peak academia. To this day, some of the surviving participants describe the experience as emotionally scarring. But the scientific community? Pretty quiet about it until lawsuits started rolling in. But hey, at least these kids got to live. Let's now talk about the experiment where the goal wasn't trauma, it was straight up dissection, alive. Number 2. Unit 731, World War II's Death Lab. If there were a competition for most horrifying war crimes dressed up as medical research, Unit 731 would take the gold medal, probably made of frozen fingers. During World War II, Japan created Unit 731 in occupied China, supposedly for disease prevention. But what they actually did makes Joseph Mengele look like your school nurse. This research facility was the size of a city block and housed thousands of human test subjects, mostly Chinese civilians, POWs, and sometimes even children. Their job? To suffer for science. We're talking forced infections of the plague, anthrax, cholera, and then live dissections to see how the disease is spread. No anesthesia, no painkillers, just cold steel, warm screams, and someone taking notes. They'd expose people to lethal temperatures, freeze their limbs until solid, then break them apart to study frostbite. Women were forcibly impregnated and their babies were dissected in the womb. Others were used in chemical weapon testing, strapped into gas chambers to watch how fast they died. Estimated death toll? Easily over 3,000. But most bodies were incinerated, and the true number may never be known. And here's the part that'll make your blood boil. The doctors who ran it, they weren't executed, they weren't imprisoned, they were given immunity by the US in exchange for their research data. Because nothing says, let's build a better future, like high-fiving literal war criminals and giving them lab funding. You'd think atrocities like that only happen during wartime, right? Think again. The next experiment happened right in America, in hospitals, bars, and sometimes your average college campus. Just add LSD. Number 3. MK Ultra, mind control on a budget. Welcome to MK Ultra, the CIA's secret project to control your mind. No, seriously, this isn't science fiction. This is science unhinged. From the 1950s through the early 70s, the CIA decided it would be cool to figure out how to manipulate the human brain, using drugs, hypnosis, sleep deprivation, and good old-fashioned gaslighting. Their ultimate dream? A human remote control, someone you could program to kill, confess, forget, or obey. So, how did they test it? by secretly drugging people with LSD and other substances without their knowledge. Some were prisoners, some were mental patients, some were regular citizens who just wanted a drink and ended up tripping balls and vomiting in a corner while a federal agent took notes. One famous case is Frank Olson, a U.S. Army biochemist who was dosed without consent. He spiraled into a mental breakdown and ended up falling or being pushed out of a 13-story hotel window. The CIA claimed suicide. His family claimed murder. The government eventually paid them hush money. MKUltra had dozens of sub-projects, including testing electroshock therapy to wipe memories, using hypnotism to manipulate behavior, and even trying to implant false memories. All of this was classified until the 1970s when it was partially exposed, and by then, most records were shredded. To this day, we don't know the full extent of what they did, but what we do know is enough to make you question every doctor, therapist, and guy in a lab coat with a clipboard. As awful as that was, at least they picked on people their own age. Now, imagine doing experiments on disabled kids and feeding them a virus just to see what happens. Welcome to Willowbrook. Number 4. The Willowbrook Experiments. It's just hepatitis. What's the big deal? Willowbrook State School was supposed to help children with intellectual disabilities. Instead, it became the set of one of the most ethically bankrupt medical experiments in American history, and no one stopped it for 15 years. Starting in the 1950s, researchers there decided to deliberately infect children with hepatitis. Why? Because hepatitis was already spreading in the institution, so they figured, hey, might as well control the spread by giving it to them on purpose. That way they could study it more efficiently. Super ethical. So, kids were infected via injections and, I kid you not, mixed into food. Imagine a doctor handing you a tray and saying, "Bon appetit, Timmy. This one comes with a side of liver inflammation." To get parental consent, they dangled the only thing that desperate families needed, a spot in the overcrowded facility. Want care for your child? Cool. Just sign this form that lets us treat them like a living petri dish. The children suffered, the virus mutated, and researchers got their data for years until finally someone blew the whistle. Journalist Geraldo Rivera exposed the horrific conditions at Willowbrook in the 1970s. The public freaked out. Laws were changed, but by then the damage was done. Hundreds of children were used, abused, and abandoned in the name of medical progress. And the justification? They were going to get sick anyway, which is like pushing someone off a cliff and saying, well, gravity was going to get him eventually. So far, we've covered experiments where people were manipulated, tortured, and infected. Now let's look at the experiment where people willingly hurt others, just because someone told them to. Spoiler, it's not a good look for humanity. Number 5. The Milgram Experiment. Your inner villain unlocked. The Milgram Experiment is proof that your neighbor, yes, that one, could absolutely be talked into electrocuting you to death. All it takes is a lab coat and a calm voice telling them, please continue. In 1961, psychologist Stanley Milgram set up a fake memory test. Volunteers were told to be the teacher, and they'd quiz someone, the learner, who was strapped to a chair in the next room. Every wrong answer, the teacher had to press a button and deliver an electric shock. The shocks increased with each wrong answer, 15 volts, 30, 60, all the way up to 450 volts. That's labeled XXX, severe shock. You know, for fun. The catch? The learner wasn't really being shocked. They were an actor, faking screams, begging for mercy, and eventually going silent, like they'd passed out or died. The real subject was the person flipping the switches. Milgram's goal? To see if regular people would follow orders even when it meant hurting someone. And yeah, they did. Over 65% of participants delivered the maximum shock, even when they thought they were killing the other person. Why? Because someone in a white coat told them it was okay. Some participants laughed nervously, others cried, a few protested, but most obeyed. It's the most polite descent into madness you'll ever see. And the real horror? Milgram didn't make them do it. He just asked. So, yeah, maybe don't trust every guy with a clipboard and a grant. Which one freaked you out the most? Let me know, and hit subscribe for more bizarre and mind-blowing stories.